The main screen at which you enter vendors is accessed by clicking on Set Up Vendors under the Inventory drop-down list on the left side of the screen. After you click on Set Up Vendors, you'll be taken to the following screen, which we'll call the Main Vendor Control Screen. From this screen, you can accomplish the following actions. View a list of all vendors and see some basic information about each. Input new vendors into EZM Web. Edit vendors currently in EZM Web. Delete vendors from EZM Web. Add, edit, and delete additional contacts for each vendor. Print a report listing all of the vendors currently in EZM Web. Print mailing labels for your vendors. At the top of the main vendor control screen, you'll see the list of vendors. The list of vendors displays all of the vendors whom you've entered into EZM Web so far. By simply looking at the list of vendors, you can glean the following information for each vendor you've entered. The vendor's ID number. This is a unique number that identifies the vendor in EZM Web. This number is automatically assigned to each vendor when you enter them and is shown in the Vendor ID column. The vendor's name. The name of the vendor, either the name of the person or the company from whom you purchase materials and/or replacement parts, is shown in the Name column. The vendor's address. The street address at which the vendor is located is shown in the Address column. Phone. The vendor's main phone number is shown in the Phone column. The last time vendor's info was updated. The date and time of the last time the vendor's information was updated is shown in the Last Updated column. To input a new vendor into EZM Web, click on the yellow-colored New button at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. After clicking on the New button, you'll be taken to a screen where you enter the details about your new vendor. As you can see here, there are several fields on the vendor information screen in which you can enter data. Fields marked with a red asterisk are required fields, which means that you cannot save the vendor into EZM Web until you have input information into these fields. Here, we'll describe the purpose of each field. Vendor name. In this field, you enter the name of the vendor, for example, the name of the person or company. Address. This is the number and the street name where the vendor is located. Terms. Here, you choose what payment terms you typically use with this vendor. Click on the arrow on the right side of the box to expand the list and then click on the desired payment terms. Keep in mind that the payment terms that you wish to use will not be available here if you have not yet entered it into EZM Web. Email. In this field, you enter the vendor's main email address. Phone number. In this field, you enter the vendor's main phone number. Notes. Here, you can enter any notes about the vendor that you wish. City. Enter the city in which the vendor is located. Zip. Enter the zip code in which the vendor is located. State. Choose the state or province, depending upon which country you're in which the vendor is located. Click on the arrow on the right side of the box to expand the list, and then click on the desired state. Keep in mind that the state or province you wish to choose will not be available here if you have not yet entered it into EZM Web. Preferred status. This lets you choose the rating which describes this vendor's performance. Click on the arrow on the right side of the box to expand the list and then click on the desired rating. Keep in mind that the rating you wish to choose will not be available here if you have not entered it into EZM Web. Country. Choose the country in which the vendor is located. Click on the arrow on the right side of the box to expand the list and then click on the desired country. Fax number. In this field, you enter the vendor's fax number. Once you've entered all of the information for your new vendor, you can choose to either save the vendor into EZM Web, or if you've changed your mind and no longer want to enter the vendor into the program, cancel entering the item and return to the main inventory control screen. To save or cancel, click on the Save or Cancel buttons at the bottom of the screen. If you choose to save the vendor, you will be returned to the main vendor control screen and the new vendor will appear in the list of vendors. You may also change details of vendors who have already been entered into EZM Web. To do this, locate the vendor you wish to edit in the list and then look under the Edit column and click on the Edit button that corresponds with the vendor you wish to edit. After clicking on the Edit button that corresponds with the vendor that you want to edit, you'll be taken to the Vendor Information screen. This screen is very similar to the one described earlier, where you enter a new vendor into the program. Unlike the screen at which you enter a new vendor, however, the Edit Vendor screen will be filled with all of the information previously entered about this vendor. Notice that there are 3 buttons at the bottom of the Vendor Information screen: Save, Cancel, and Mailing Labels. The Mailing Labels button is used to print mailing labels for the vendor, which we'll talk about later. Once you've made your desired changes to the information for the vendor, you can choose to either save the changes you made to the vendor, or, if you've changed your mind and no longer want to make changes to the vendor, cancel and return to the main vendor screen. To save or cancel, click on the Save or Cancel buttons. You may also delete vendors from EasyMWeb when, for example, you're no longer working with them, or if they were inputted accidentally. To do this, locate the vendor you wish to delete, and then look under the Delete column and click on the Delete button that corresponds with the vendor you wish to delete. Once you click on the Delete button, a small window will pop up on the screen prompting you to confirm that you want to delete that vendor from EasyMWeb. Click on the OK button to confirm that you want to delete the vendor. Or click on the Cancel button if you've changed your mind and do not want to delete the vendor from the program. If you click on the OK button, you'll be returned to the main vendor control screen and the vendor will be removed from the list of vendors. At the main vendor control screen, you can view a list of additional contacts for each vendor you've entered into EasyMWeb. To see a list of additional contacts for a particular vendor, first click on that vendor's ID number under the Vendor ID column in the list of vendors. Once you click on one of the vendor ID numbers, a list of additional contacts will appear below the list of vendors that displays all of the additional contacts for the vendor whose ID number you clicked on. You can add additional contacts to this list, edit the information for existing contacts, and delete contacts. To add a contact to the list, use the Add Contact Info button right below the list of contacts. When you click on the Add Contact Info button, a form will open below the list of additional contacts into which you enter the details for the new contact you're adding. As you can see here, there are several fields in this form in which you can enter data. The Vendor ID field is automatically filled with the ID number of the vendor for which you're entering the additional contact. The Name field is marked with a red asterisk, which means that you cannot save the additional contact until you have filled in this field. The purpose of each field is thus: Name, here you enter the name of the person you're listing as an additional contact. Phone number, this is the phone number of the contact. Address, enter the address of the contact. Title, here you enter the job title of the contact. Email, enter the contact's email address. Other info, here you can enter any additional notes you want to record about this contact. Once you've entered all of the information for the new contact, you can choose to either save the contact or cancel if you've changed your mind and no longer want to enter the contact. To save or cancel, click on the Save or Cancel buttons respectively below the form. Clicking on Save closes the contact form and adds the new contact to the list. Clicking on Cancel simply closes the form without adding a new contact to the list. As stated previously in this section, you can also edit existing additional contacts. To do this, locate the contact you wish to edit in the list of contacts and then look under the Edit column and click on the Edit button that corresponds with the contact you wish to edit. This will open up a form below the list of contacts, which is similar to the one where you entered a new contact, except for the fact that all of the current information for that contact is already filled in. You can change the values for any of the data items in this form. Once you've made your desired changes, you can choose to either save the changes to contact or cancel if you've changed your mind and no longer want to make changes to the contact. To save or cancel, click on the Save or Cancel buttons respectively below the form. Clicking on Save closes the contact form and saves the changes you made. Clicking on Cancel simply closes the form without making any changes to the contact. You can also delete additional contacts. To do this, locate the contact you wish to delete in the list of contacts, and then look under the Delete column and click on the button that corresponds with the contact you wish to delete. Once you click on the Delete button, a small window will pop up on the screen prompting you to confirm that you want to delete the contact. Click on the OK button to confirm that you want to delete the contact, or click on the Cancel button if you've changed your mind and do not want to delete the contact. To print a list of all the vendors you've entered into EZM Web so far, first go to the main vendor control screen. Then locate the yellow-colored Print button at the lower right part of the screen. Clicking on the Print button will print the following report, which shows you all of the vendors you've entered into EZM Web. You can also print mailing labels with your vendors' addresses on them. To print mailing labels for a vendor, locate the vendor for which you want to print the label or labels in the list of vendors, and then look under the Edit column and click on the small button that corresponds with that vendor. This will take you to another screen with a Mailing Labels button. Click on the Mailing Labels button. This will pop up a small window with two choices: single label or multiple labels. To select either single label or multiple labels, click on the small circle next to each. Clicking on multiple labels will print out a sheet with multiple mailing labels for that vendor. Alternatively, clicking on the circle next to the single label will print a sheet with a single mailing label in the upper left-hand